Hello, everyone, and welcome to our MTA Food Board Meeting reaction video for the month of September 2019. And this is your host, Jason Anthony, from his studios in Brooklyn. Today, we had a very interesting food board meeting indeed. Although that started on time with a battle royale between two unions and Pat Foy. So, just to let you guys know, the capital plan was approved. All the board members voted in favor, despite the fact that Susan Metzger changed her vote at the very last minute. Thank you for joining me, Andy Q, at this live stream. And let's keep it rolling.
Good morning and welcome to the September board meeting of the MTA. We're going to start with public speakers. Lucille.
But first, here's something that changed from last month and something that NJT does, but not in an automatic way. Let's listen to the announcement. Before we continue, there were 54 people that signed up to speak. Several faces that I want to highlight. This video on this row, we had Craig Cipriano, Andy Byford, Gianno Lieber. Over here we had Phil Ang and Cassie Rinaldi. And the person sitting right there where my cursor is, she is the Inspector General for the MTA. And she gave a marvelous report. And even during the public session, you guys are going to hear the testimony of a conductor. And listen up, Andy Q. This could be involving your neck of the woods. This person was assaulted by the same person more than once. And as usual, we have the Patrick Foy, Ronnie Hagum, Bob Ferran. Here we had Kevin Law, the silent Rhonda Herman, Randy Glucksman, David Jones, Veronica Vanderpool. We had Neil Zuckerman. We had Vinny Risatore. We had Andrew Albert. And we had Bob Lynn. And we had Dr. Susan Metzger. And we had Linda Lacewell and another silent board member. Let's start off with the first public speaker.
Good morning. And I want to address Mr. Larry Swartz today and his comments about people being delusional. There's no one more delusional than Mr. Cuomo. For someone to say that he don't know who run the subways to a few months later saying that he go take charge of the subways, it shows that he's delusional and he just needed that time to create his next set of lies, believe it or not. Delusional is the MTA board who never done our work, but got the nerve to tell the 8 million riders and the 46,000 union members what's good for us. That's pretty delusional. Delusional is you guys talking about cuts in our contract. Those cuts in our contract is going to hurt the ride in public. That's delusional. I don't know what you guys is really thinking here. Another thing is delusional. Mr. Foy, you came from the Bridgegate scandal. According to NewJersey.com, you lied on that Bridgegate scandal.
Here's the thing. He doesn't know that Pat Foy, prior to being the MTA CEO and chairman, where was Patrick Foy? Being the executive director of the Port Unauthorized of New York and New Jersey, and whom in January 2017, in his last board meeting as the executive director of the Port Unauthorized, in the presence of Omar Vera and this gentleman who is doing this video, were present and at 4 World Trade Center when the vote came down and the most idiotic project yet, the air train to LaGuardia Airport, came to life. Thanks to whom? Patrick Foy, a surrogate of Governor Andrew Mark Cuomo, whom exchanged to be on the MTA because of Joe Lora had conflict of interest with NYU and MSG. Let's continue to listen in.
But it makes sense. It makes sense because lies and corruption goes right along with Cuomo agenda. So that's why you're here. Another thing that's delusional is these contract proposals. If you guys think that we're going to take this, like I don't care what Local 100 does. It's a whole bunch of members here that care what's going on here today. If y'all want to take us back, if y'all want to take us back into time and turn us from civil servants to indentured servants, we can hop in our time machine also, and we could take you back to 1966, 1980, or 2005. Whatever y'all want to do. Mr. Foy, you got to do better, man. You listening to Cuomo, we can have all these people at Port Washington because it's coming. You affecting our livelihood, it's a matter of time before we affect yours. And for the record, this is what we think about these contract proposals. We don't care about it. Y'all got to do better. You can't call us miracle workers and then treat us like we slaves.
Please
It gotta
kindly
stop.
conclude your remarks, please. Thank you.
And there's no physical.
Okay, this individual here, I have to do a rant. This woman, she could be sitting there right next to Sarah Feinberg, but between her and Tim Ellis have been the most harshest people that I could ever see in my life after Robert Marino's retirement. Because as you see in the, let's say in the vast majority of the MTA committee meetings that they meet the Monday before the food board, you have 120 seconds to speak. That equals 2 minutes. Excepting the diversity committee that provides you 3 minutes. Just like in the port unauthorized, they give you 3 minutes. In New Jersey Transit Corporation and its subsidiaries, New Jersey Transit Rail Operations Inc., New Jersey Transit Bus Operations Inc., New Jersey Transit Mercer Inc., and New Jersey Transit Morris Inc., they give 5 minutes. But there's a group that represents Mr. Grady, and every time that we see surrogates of Mr. Grady, the moderator indicates that the first two speakers have 5 minutes and the rest have 2 minutes if they're talking about the same topic. The MTA should apply this technique because I think in 120 seconds, in other words, 2 minutes, we cannot get our entire message through. And unfortunately, she has to go. And where, you guys wonder where is Tim Alice? In Albany. Because people like myself complained about this person. Like, for instance, in our YouTube channel, we recorded an incident that Tim Ellis had with one participant in the fair hearings regarding the fare and toll increases that happened in Brooklyn, in Long Island University. Since then, we haven't seen Tim Ellis. So this lady right here, she has to go. Let's continue.
Please kindly, please kindly conclude your remarks. Thank you.
Kindly, kindly, come on. You don't act harsh towards the public. We are there because we want to raise our voice, our concerns. But having a chairperson like Patrick Foley from Port Washington, that is like John from Pi Power Alive said, bunch of snobs. And I totally agree with John in that. As a matter of fact, you guys recall on Monday, John from Pi Power Alive was there in the same spot that I was, giving his testimony regarding Minneola. They don't give a damn. The majority of the board members are, let's say, NIMBYs. That means not in my backyard. But let's continue.
Saying we don't come to work. I'm at work right now.
Please kindly
I know the fact
conclude
jokes
your
about we
remarks.
not in shape and
Thank
stuff like
you.
that, that's a smack in our face.
Sir, please kindly conclude your remarks. Before the next speaker, we have 54 people speaking today. We are asking that everyone abides by the
You guys heard me in the background. Here's the normal procedure. In every committee meeting and every other board meeting, the chairperson of the committee or the chairman acts is their public speakers. The moderator, who happens to sit next, let's say to the left of the chairperson, says they are X or there is Y amount of public speakers. But she waited until the gentleman from Progressive Action ended to speak to say that was 54 public speakers. Let's continue.
2-minute limit. Thank you. The next speaker is Jocelyn McCray, followed by Canela Gomez.
Good afternoon. Good morning. My name is Jocelyn McCray. I'm a member of Local 100 and Progressive Action. Earlier in this meeting, when you guys were discussing safety, you was talking about assaults. I am currently out on workers' comp because I was spit on while doing my job at work. Now, someone said being spit on is worse than being punched in the face. But guess what? I have 2 children at home. So am I supposed to go home with a black eye as well? We need to stop all assaults. I drive a bus in New York City through every single neighborhood. Some are high crime, some aren't. But guess what? A partial partition is not stopping anything. They can still reach over, they can still lean over, and our safety is still at risk. So if you want us to come to work and report to work and be present, then you have to ensure our safety. Stop making cuts and put in the right protection for your employees. It does not take any rocket science to understand that when you come in, just like you guys have security down here, now today y'all called for extra police, and then y'all stop people from coming upstairs. I cannot stop anyone from coming on that bus. It's open to the public. And then y'all want to cut service, so now we're going to have people waiting, people disgruntled. You guys are setting up the perfect storm for the customers and the employees to come and have issues with one another while you sit comfy here in Manhattan not doing anything. All of this is talk. We don't see any of you guys out here riding any bus in the 5 boroughs at all. So if you want to ensure our safety and the rider's safety, then you have to do a better job than just sitting in this meeting talking about month after month what is supposed to happen, and get out there and put in correct safety measures for us. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Canela Gomez, followed by Kenneth Murray.
You guys are funny. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say that I've never seen a leadership so disenchanted or so far from their employees. Like, you guys really have no understanding of what your employees go through. And for you guys to submit those contracts, then, Mr. Ford, you make almost $400,000 a year. And I would never say that you make too much money. So how can you tell us employees that make less than 80 grand a year to take 2% raise in New York City? That's insane. Do you feel like, imagine someone telling you you can't make more money. Like, it's embarrassing. Like, it's just a shame that you guys just don't understand where we come from. And as far as assaults go, you guys are the main reason we get assaulted. Like, as sure as the sun will rise, when it's our contract time, you guys, I don't know, it's like sometimes I think the Post works for the MTA board. You guys fill the newspaper with, we're lazy, we're taking so many days off. Like, I haven't had a Christmas off in years. I haven't had a Thanksgiving off in years. I haven't had a 4th of July off in years. I haven't had my birthday off in years. Like, It's embarrassing. The only good thing in this room with you MTA board guys is President Byfield. I will say, President Byfield, you are a godsend to the MTA, and we appreciate you. We really appreciate you. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Our next speaker is Kenneth Murray, followed by John Ferretti.
We the transit workers work entirely safe for a dependable service. Knowing this, we the transit workers could not understand why the MTA would offer such a draconian contract. You see, a mass transit system of the 21st century deserves a 21st century training for a 21st century worker with 21st century wages. We the transit workers did not come here today for special treatment, for you would accuse us of wanting. We did not come here for the revolution, for you would accuse us of violence. Let it be written for all to read. When the MTA said yes, we said no. Labor brings in money. Respect labor and give us a fair contract.
Our next speaker is John Ferretti, followed by Rodney Ransom.
There
Hi,
goes the
I'm John
famous
Ferretti,
John
conductor,
Ferretti.
proud member of Local 100. I'm here today to talk about what you guys never talk about, where the real crisis of the funding of the transit system comes from. It doesn't come from our overtime. It comes from Wall Street. It comes from salary raises for people like Cuomo. You people have no shame. Every one of you are nothing but a lackey for a gangster governor who's done nothing but attack and lie about working people who make this city run. He gets a $71,000 raise in 2 years. $71,000, 40% raise in 2 years, like a thief in the night. Governor Cuomo and his cronies in the state legislature, they vote themselves a 40% raise. But you won't give us 2? Then you have the nerve, you have the absolute nerve to come here and talk about soft tissue injuries and our employees being injured on the job. Where's Schwartz, by the way? You want to know why we're injured? Because of liars like Larry Schwartz and liars like Patrick Foy. You got $400,000 a year and we can't get 2%? You liar, you got blood on your hands. How dare you come here and talk about you care about us? You're really wringing your hands about how much we're injured. Do you really believe that anybody believes these lies? The time for that nonsense is over. It's over. The riders and the workers are uniting. We're going to show up at every board meeting. You guys can't hide from us. Cuomo can't hide from us. We run this city. We run this city, and don't you ever forget it. And we can make it stop. Don't you ever forget that neither.
Our next speaker is Rodney Ransom, followed by Seth Rosenberg.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone here. To say that I'm outraged or disgusted by the contract demands that you've given us would be a joke. Listening to some of you speak in itself was a joke. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know what your background is. I don't know where you came from. I don't know who you think you are. But a lot of us are upset and we're tired of it. When we come to work, we get assaulted. We get abused. We got a gentleman here that got stabbed in his back. None of you responded to it. But the minute Cuomo says jump, the first thing you ask is how high? Where's your manhood? Where's your womanhood? Stand up for what's right. We move this city and pay us correctly.
Yeah. Our next speaker is Seth Rosenberg, followed by Lee Ireland.
Thank you. Some of you see me before. Let me be perfectly clear. The lies from you and Cuomo about overtime and attendance were done on purpose to try and position yourself to get givebacks from us, from Local 100, on leave time, sick time, and hours of work. You are directly responsible for the rise in assaults on transit workers, and you should be held accountable for your crimes. On attendance, why are we injured and sick so much other than the assaults that you're sicking on us? First, Byford called us miracle workers, and he's right. But you can't have it both ways. Keeping up a system that is falling apart is dangerous. I had to take the same train out of service 3 times in a row, a train that could have injured me. Why is that? As a safety inspector for the union, I saw dangerous and disgusting conditions that when they affected management were fixed like that. But when they affected us, they languished for weeks or months. That gets us sick, that gets us injured. We can't come to work. You cut our schedules and try and squeeze more out of us so we don't have proper recovery time. That leads to stress, that leads to injury, that leads to mistakes. Anyone who works down here can tell you the truth. That you and the MTA don't care about the safety of workers or riders, except to cover your ASS.
Cover your ass.
You don't even think of us as human. We are just cogs in your machine to make the service run. But transit workers care about safety. We have to. Unlike you, our lives are on the line. Unlike you, we actually care about working people and their lives, the millions who ride our trains. What the MTA fears is an alliance between transit workers and riders, and it is coming together, right? Transit workers care about safety, and we will enforce safety, protect our lives and the riders. If necessary, we will shut down unsafe work, and that may lead to disruptions. But the public needs to know that since the MTA has abdicated on safety, we will enforce safety. New York City runs and works because we work, and
Please.
never forget that.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Lee Ireland, followed by Diane Sorrentino.
Lee is the most senior conductor in the
Let's pause the video for 1 minute. You guys see the Inspector General? She was sitting right there throughout the public speaking session and listening to every single person that was speaking. But when it came to the moment of those speakers who are disabled, here are the following folks that were not only listening, making eye contact. Craig Cipriano, Andy Byford, Jana Lieber, Phil Ng, and Kathy Rinaldi. So basically, Bus, Transit, Capital Construction, LIRR, Metro North, Inspector General. Let's continue.
system.
My name is Lee Ireland. I've been working for New York City Transit for 35 and a half years. And I'll be 70 years old in January. And I'm so upset at how things have fallen apart. I mean, I never hear anybody talking about the homelessness problem on the trains. I mean, homelessness on our system has become unbelievably unbearable. I don't blame them. I blame management for that, because it needs to be addressed by management. You've got to do something about this problem. How can you let people that are homeless take over the system like they do? They're like camping out. I've got so many photos. I take photos just to demonstrate this. Anybody want to see them? I'll show them. You know, I mean, come on. And then think of the riding public that has to endure that. And they're paying their fares. They're paying their legal fares, and that's what they have to endure. How is that right? Nobody wants to talk about that. And the lack of police protection, another thing. You know, back in the early days, there used to be plainclothes detectives out in the field. That was a wonderful thing. What happened to that? We need that. You know, criminals feel that they don't have nothing to worry about. They're well aware that the fact that there's no police protection out there. And we all know that. We can see it. And they see it. And they've become very brazen. And it's unsafe not only for us as employees, but for the riding public and tourists that come from all over America and abroad. You know, many times I'll press the alert button for conductors to call command center to make them aware of something that's going bad on the subways, because most people don't do it because they're afraid that then they will be accosted by the criminal that's causing the problem. So they're afraid to do it. So I always do it to try to show a good example to passengers how to respond.
Sir,
But then
please
when it goes
kindly
to the
conclude
conductor,
your remarks.
They call command center, and command center says, but signal en route on your horn.
Sir, please
You know,
kindly
and
conclude
the
your
cops
remarks.
Never show up. They never show up. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Diane Sorrentino, followed by Alberto Alamo.
Good morning. My name is Dwayne Sorrentino. I am a train operator and proud Local 100 member. Our contract expired May 15th. The MTA plays media games. I know you guys hate bad publicity. You're always out doing all different stuff in the media trying to counter things. The last thing, we're hiring 500 police officers. I don't know about you guys. MTA police officers are not in New York City transit subways. They patrol the railroads. That's not going to help us. Like Mr. Island said, the homeless problem is rampant everywhere. Nothing gets done. You're in the media bragging how you improve service, expediting the public commute. The only praise I've heard for the actual workforce doing the work was from Mr. Byford. Okay? If you look in the sports world, the manager, the coach, the owners, they don't get the team into the Super Bowl or the World Series. They're never named the MVP. It's the team. It's the workforce that does the work. Okay? That's what TW does. TW is we move the public. That's what we do. That's what we've always done, and that's what we try to do. We should not be adversaries on this. We should be working together to make the system better. Your own data shows that the system and service has improved, but yet you offer a contract offer like we're not doing anything. This whole thing with the time clocks and the chronos, like we're stealing. Listen, no TW member signs their own overtime. Nobody. Nobody. Until you go to management and the people sign you off on overtime and find out why the overtime is generated, don't hold it against us. There's work to do. TW does it. We've always done it. Okay? So, out of the last contract on page 2, the TW agreed to facilitate the improvements. And yet we're
Please kindly conclude your remarks.
Contract offer. So, anyway, thank you.
Our next speaker is Alberto Alamo, followed by Guillermo Rosa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a work train operator. I see what most people don't, and it's the waste of money that all of you on this board do every day. Glass stations in Astoria. Why do we need glass stations in Astoria? Why do we need locomotives that cost $3.5 million each and buy 28 of them when they smoke out a station in 5 minutes, folks? Riding public is at risk when it comes to one of our work trains going into a station and smoking it out in 5 minutes. $3.5 million for each one of those. On top of that, 4th Avenue in Brooklyn was collapsing. It took a piece of concrete to actually hit a train before you actually thought of fixing it. It took a year to do that. The L-Line project that you guys finagled, it's lipstick on a pig, folks. We have concrete that's actually falling and you're masking it with a plastic layer on top of it. I'm there every night. You guys are not. 100-degree heat down in that tunnel on the L-Line, and you fail to provide ventilation for all the workers down there.
Wait a minute. You guys heard it right? 100-degree temperature underneath, let's say in the Canarsie Tunnel between Manhattan and Brooklyn. With no ventilation? That's a safety hazard. Because no person in the whole wide world can't work in a so harsh ambience. And regarding the L project, the L train project came into, let's say, into discussion during the Ronnie Hinckham era. But it never came of reality under Ronnie Hankham's tenure. They had to wait until Pat Floyd came into play, taking out Andy Byford of the project. That was a dumb thing to do. And leaving Capital Construction by itself. And doing something that they didn't do in the Montague 2, Geronimo 2, Cranberry, Steinway, 53rd Street, 63rd Street, and all the tubes that they already did, even Greenpoint. But Andrew Mark Cuomo and Patrick Floyd, they decided to consult external advisors from Columbia and Cornell to do the job. And now we're dealing with 20-minute headways between Manhattan and Brooklyn and 10-minute headways within Brooklyn. Do you guys think that the project will be done between 15 and 18 months? Leave your comments, please. And let's keep listening.
Actually doing the work. Genius. Very genius. You care about safety? I think not. I think it's a big lie. Also, on the work train side, lack of maintenance in facilities. So we have derailments and you have these excuses, but yet you fail to maintain a yard. Coney Island Yard has one loop track available. Meanwhile, you're fixing flood protection. Spring Street over the weekend had flood protection. There is no flood protection at Spring.
Let's listen to Brian
Suck the
Burke.
oxygen out of the whole program nationally.
Let's listen to Brian Burke.
Vicarious liability on the members of the board itself, and you might want to check your insurance if you think you don't have liability or your liability is covered. If it's intentional and you're being noticed of this fraud and you choose not to act on it or to continue to cover it up, you could.
Look at this. We have Brian Burke. People have been asking me throughout the day if he was Mr. X, or in other words, William Stanford Jr. I tell them no, but again, what Mr. X and him have in common? That they have, let's say they get, let's say, pretty annoying, bringing posters that he worked for the MTA. How we could prove that? The IG was listening to him. According to him, the IG ignored his calls. So how factual his facts could be, we don't know. Now let's turn.
See that with, of course, I'm old enough to remember Richard Nixon and his cover-up. He was not involved in the burglary. He was involved in the cover-up. So I don't know when you discovered this fraud. I certainly brought this to your attention on numerous occasions. You've chosen not to act. I have tried to reach out to the MTA Inspector General. I have spoken to Mr. Byford, who's a very nice gentleman, as well as Mr. Deal. Mr. Deal and I agreed that this is for the MTA Inspector General. The MTA Inspector General has refused to speak to me. I hope that will change, perhaps. I am asking that change. I also attempted to speak to Ms. Grant, Miranda Grant of the Special Investigations and Review. She has also refused to speak to me. This cover-up certainly is something that will go up the chain of command to, of course, the legislature and other governing bodies over this body. And I would point out to you in the state that people as important as Shelley Silver and other important elected officials have gone to jail for criminal activity similar to this. And
Sir,
it's
please
something that
kindly
we should be
conclude your
speaking to
remarks.
outside counsel about it,
Thank
not
you.
transit attorneys. Thank you.
Before going to my speech, um, be aware that I prepared my speech. I was a couple of days preparing it. I finished it last night. I couldn't, let's say, do the whole thing because of her. Let's listen to my speech.
Our next speaker is Jason Pinero, followed by Thomas Hill Gardner.
Good morning, MTA full board meeting. I'm Jason Anthony Pinheiro, Regional Communications Strategist for Passengers United, a regional commuter group advocacy that represents commuters that depend on mass transit. This month, I want to speak about transparency. This MTA board has to be more vocal in terms to raise concerns of their constituents. In particular, 2 new board members that are not from the city, that are basically sitting there doing the committees and being quiet. You guys need to be more vocal. Thank you. But a person that has to give a lot of explanation is Patrick Foy. When he was executive director of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, under his tenure in January 2017, he approved the capital plan that covers the years 2017 to 2026, that includes the air train to LaGuardia Airport, that only covers the Port Washington branch, who he happens to live there, and leave us that lives on the east side of Hudson stranded. And also, he has to explain why he has a Twitter handle at Pat Foy with no profile picture and hasn't been updated since July 12th when leader Hector Figueroa passed away. No explanation provided, and we have a governor named Andrew Mark Cuomo that making flip-flops regarding the subway action plan instead of supporting a Andy Byford fast forward plan. The MTA board has lost voices like Chuck Mudler and Mitch Patty due to Andrew Mark Cuomo's flip-flopping. You guys need to be more vocal, especially Wanda Herman. And
Please kindly conclude your remarks.
I will conclude my remarks when you guys
Please kindly conclude your remarks, sir.
mindful to the commuters.
Thank you so much. Please kindly conclude your remarks. Thank you.
She is so goddamn shady. I will have to do the same thing that I did to Tim Alice. That's part 1 of my speech. Part 2 is suspension points. And now, let's focus our attention to a subway conductor who has a horrendous story to tell. And I spoke to this person after the after the public session. Okay, there she is.
Have no patience at all. I understand it has to be.
But first, this person, she is a subway conductor along, I think it's the E or the J. But her story, like, wonder me, what the F? Where was transit police in all this? Let's listen to her story.
Be stressful for them to have to dealing with people who have disabilities all day, but they need to learn to understand us to access a right. Operators need to be sensitive to people that have speech impediments. I ask them to please be patient, ask the person to repeat themselves if they need, and don't give up so easy to trying to understand people. I appreciate the training that bus drivers are getting, but access a right operators and contractors are one of the main points of contact between people with disabilities and the MTA, and how they treat us is incredibly unpredictable. Please make sure all of them are receiving the training so that we can receive consistent, respectful service. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joanne Jaworski, followed by Sasha Blair Goldenson.
Hello. My name is Joanne Jaworski. I'm a conductor on the subway, have been for a few years now, and I'd like to discuss assaults with you. Unfortunately, transit says assaults and are safe against employees and employee safety and passenger safety is extremely important. Unfortunately, in my personal experience, I have been assaulted numerous times, sexually assaulted, having passengers. This is going to make many of you very uncomfortable, pull out their penis and start masturbating in front of me. When I call control, their response is signal en route for police. When I hold the passenger that spit in my face for police, what do the police do? The police safely escort him out of the station. This last time, I had a passenger sexually assault me at Marcy Avenue. Stood there masturbating at my window. When following week, this same passenger is laying on the train, fully exposed. Called and reported it to control. We're told, signal en route, maybe we'll have a police meet your train. When the conductor with that train got to Essex Street and called control yet again and asked, well, are we holding for police? They're told, no, it's fine, signal en route. Well, I was on the following train. When my train got back to Parsons, that conductor was going out of Parsons again with that same passenger still exposed. Known sexual predator. How are you concerned about the safety of the passengers and employees if you're allowing this person to travel down the road yet again? My complaints to my union, I was told, because I was very upset. I called control. Please don't send this known sexual predator down the road yet again. I was told stay off the radio. When I complained to my union tells me that's fine. They did what they were supposed to do. Why are you
Please
upset?
kindly conclude. Thank you.
I feel transit does not give a damn about employees or passenger safety.
Thank you.
Okay, I had the privilege to speaking with her a little bit in depth. She is absolutely scared. She is absolutely scared of returning to work because we have freaking maniacs out there doing that thing. And NDQ, you're absolutely right. This happened on the J line, I'm assuming, because she mentioned some key stations. She mentioned Marcy Avenue, she mentioned Essex Street, and she mentioned Parsons. So that means the J. I was so heartbroken because you guys know there are some people in the subways and on buses that they do their job. Some of them don't. In some instances, you have to give them the heads up. Like I always do, oftentimes when, let's say, the subway conductor doesn't know about X or Y service change, I let them know as a courtesy. Same with buses. I have seen bus drivers departing their terminals in Manhattan and in Brooklyn without changing their destination sign. The latest incident, I was getting on the B65 in downtown Brooklyn. The conductor didn't change the sign, left it the same, indicating that he was going to downtown Brooklyn, Fulton Mall, instead of indicating Crown Heights, Ralph Avenue. Then I took a picture when I got off the bus at Atlantic and 3rd, sent it to NYCT Bus. They responded to me the that the signs in that bus was not working. How do they know that wasn't working if the driver did not even attempt to change the god awful sign? Okay, now let's go to the discussion of the capital plan.
All right, so I'm going to do a couple of pages and turn it over to Jano Lieber. This is the largest ever capital plan by far, 70% larger than the 2015 to 2019 program, making unprecedented investments in the region. Unprecedented investment, as I mentioned, of $51.5 billion, revitalizing the system and building on the successful investment of the Subway Action Plan, but investing in Metro North and Long Island Railroad at unprecedented levels. Includes more than $40 billion for New York City Transit, which is more than the entire MTA 2015 to 2019 program. Jano will talk later about the major benefits. MTA capital plan process is guided by state law. Public Authorities Law provides for the MTA's 5-year plan to be submitted to the Capital Plan Review Board.
Okay, here's the process that happened. It already got approved by the full board today and is going to be submitted to the Capital Plan Review Board, CPRB, by October 1st. That means next week. And then the CPRB comprises of representatives of the governor, the Senate, the Assembly, and the mayor's office. And this entity has 3 months to review, veto, request changes, or approve. Failure to act is otherwise deemed approval. Amendments to an approved capital plan trigger a 30-day CPRB approval.
On or before October 1st of the year before it starts, and assuming the board approves today, that's what we intend to do. The CPRB by law has 90 days to review, veto, request changes, or approve.
But
and we've assumed
Before we go forward, we want to hear the discussion of certain board members, and we're going to start off with Dr. Susie Metzger. Of course, she represents, along with Randy Glocksman and Warren Getz, the west of Hudson service. That means the Port Jervis line and the Pascagoula Valley line.
Federal New Starts, which is US DOT competitive grant.
Can be successful. First, I want to tell you what I think is really good in this plan. Foremost, this plan is the beginning of appropriate funding level for MTA as a whole. At the last plan, and I've been around for 3 of these plans, at the last plan, which was 32 or so million, the board members amongst themselves and said publicly, this should be 40 or 50 billion dollars. Yeah, I keep having troubles with the M's and the B's. This plan, 5 years later, does provide $51 billion, and that's good. But it's 5 years later, and we've had 5 years more wear and tear, and we've had increased federal mandates, but still it's better than it was. Metro North Railroad has $4.7 billion in this plan, and that compares to $2.5 in the last plan. That's also a good thing, but it doesn't by far cover all of Metro North's needs to meet state of good repair, and I suspect you're going to hear more about that later. Second, the discrepancy between Long Island Railroad and MNR, Metro North, is $1 billion. That is actually smaller than it has been in the past. Neil presented those figures on Monday. On Monday, I said $1 billion discrepancy between railroads is my tipping point, and it is my tipping point in view of the small ask that the west of Hudson has made on this system. People come here and talk to us and say they don't want to wait an hour for a train. I have 13 trains from 4 in the morning, 4:30, well, no, 5 after, until 9:30 at night. 13 trains. We have wait times of 2 hours. And the reason for that is that we can't put more trains on the line without passing sidings and a midpoint yard. We're infrastructure starved. Without money in this plan, we're going to wait another 10 years to get that infrastructure. I checked my birth certificate. That's past my expiration date, so we need it in this plan. Further, it's long been known that Orange and Rockland counties provide MTA with more money, more funding than we get back in services. We pay more than we get in return. This is a value gap that's been true for decades, well, as long as we've been part of it. And we can't get more service. You can't provide us with any more service if we don't have a rail yard. Is it any wonder I'm getting strong-armed? People are fed up with this. The MTA has systematically disregarded the west of Hudson counties of Orange and Rockland. They have not taken our transit needs into consideration. You heard about the Suffern train station today. The Suffern train station is the entry point to New York on the Port Jervis line. And it's incredible to me that it is owned by New Jersey Transit. And on top of all this, Albany only gives us a quarter vote. That's nuts.
A quarter?
Yeah,
Believe it?
that's only because 2 of our compatriots aren't here.
Believe it or not, Dr. Susan Metzger, she is the most powerful voice of west of Hudson. And she only has a quarter vote, just like Randy Glocksman. Let's say the west of Hudson is the black sheep of the MTA. And here's why. You guys have the Port Jervis line and the Pascagoula line that start as north as Orange and Rockland counties, respectively, passing by northern Jersey and ending up at Hoboken Terminal, where you have to take either a ferry or the cycle path to get to Manhattan, or get to Secaucus and transfer to either the Montclair Bootle line, the Northeast Corridor, or the North Jersey Coastline, or the Radington Valley line to go to Penn Station, and then access the subway. The west of Hudson, let's say the upper west of Hudson, they don't have a midpoint yard like the LIRR has. If one of their trains break down, they have to go all the way to Hoboken. Therefore, facing cancellations and long wait times. Let's keep listening in to Dr. Metzger.
Also, I want to say that this plan, and it's been pointed out by many advocacy groups, this plan was conceived in the dark. The transparency that this board has worked for over many years has gone dark. The board didn't see the details. The full board didn't see the details until Thursday. That's way too late to have discussions with management. Further, there really isn't enough detail in the public documents to let me know what I'm really getting out of the Port Jervis line capital expansion potential. Lack of detail is another way to avoid transparency. Now, I want to say that there is no rift between Metro North and Long Island Railroad or between Kevin and me. We support each other. We're sister railroads. We're all part of one system. Bless you. I pointed out the billion-dollar discrepancy because it highlights the stupidity of holding back $65 million for a midpoint yard on west of Hudson, which is, bless you again, truly needed west of Hudson. Now, the chairman told me that he's been working to include funding for the midpoint yard, and that he believes it can be forthcoming in some amended plan. That's not entirely satisfying. It should have been in this plan, not something that has to be fought out.
See, Dr. Susan Metzger, once again, the word of the day was transparency. From this one right here, I mentioned transparency. Rachel Foss from Reinvent Albany mentioned transparency. And now we have Dr. Susan Metzger mentioning transparency. But guess what, folks? Patrick Foy is not going to do what Dr. Susan Metzger wants. And here's why. Because he is a surrogate, just like Larry Schwartz. They are surrogates and puppets, just like Robert Mojica are puppets to Andrew Mark Cuomo. Simple as that. And why Patrick Foy approved back in January 2017 in the Fort World Trade Center in front of Omar Vera and my own self, that stupid, dumb ass plan of the air train to LaGuardia Airport only to benefit the Port Washington branch on the LIRR. I was speaking, in other words, I spoke after the meeting with board member Andrew Albert. He doesn't support the plan. He has the same opinion that I have. It's a stupid plan. But again, Patrick Foy, Robert Mojica, and Larry Schwartz are Andrew Mark Cuomo's puppet. Let's keep it rolling.
Nonetheless, I will take him at his word and expect that he will stand by it. When I was first appointed to the MTA, I was told that my perspective had to be both on my constituents and the MTA as a whole. The region needs this MTA and needs this capital plan. Metro North needs this money and more to be state of good repair. I believe that MTA provides transit for the region, and that includes my people who are being disregarded.
Thank you.
Nonetheless, I will vote for the plan.
I'm going to provide a somewhat different perspective. There's fabulous things in this plan, something almost for everybody, and now maybe even for west of Hudson, if the chairman is accurate. But there's a tremendous dichotomy going on here, which I cannot believe I'm the only one that noticed. We're going to have the most fabulous new signals, the most fabulous new rolling stock, accessibility for all, but it's going to be running less frequently because we don't have dedicated funds for operating. And that's just crazy. All of the things Jana was just saying said providing for more and better service, and yet we're faced with the possibility of service cuts. We around this table need to be advocating for a dedicated stream of operating funds, whether it's 2 cents a gallon gas tax, which nobody would feel. Somebody else raised a minor percentage on hotel occupancy tax.
There you have board member Andrew Albert, who has more than one hat. He represents the New York City Transit in the PCAC. And he is the transportation chairman for Manhattan's Community Board 7 that comprises of the Upper West Side. Everything from 79th Street all the way up to the high 90s to low 100s. As you guys know, Andrew Albert, along with Veronica Vanderpool, are considered the writers' champions. And here's why. Back in 2016, They both advocated to bring back the W train. Because of them, we don't have a $3 or a $3.25 subway fare. And I thank them both for advocating for those who ride the subway every single day. Now let's listen to the junior rider champion, Veronica Vanderpool.
That and acknowledge the need for that expedition to happen, and I appreciate that. New York City has always been clear that we need to understand more the details of this plan, and the mayor has made it very clear in his letter to the chairman that the city's contribution should not be front-loaded. We need to see some of these other revenues come forth first. I do have some concerns about this capital program, particularly around the aid from our federal partners in this very difficult climate. But secondly, some of the concerns around debt. But most importantly, while we have this unprecedented capital program, we also are facing every year unprecedented operating deficits that are going to get worse. And as my colleague Andrew Alpert pointed out, we need new revenue sources on the operating side too. And that's a very difficult ask at this time when we've just received $25 billion in new revenue sources on the capital side. And I want to close by saying that the transparency of this plan has been not an improvement at all. And in fact, I'm quite disappointed that once again, many of us are including in our remarks how opaque this process has been. It has been a constant refrain over at least the 4 years that I've been on this board about needing to do better in terms of releasing information, particularly this capital program. In fact, when I first joined the board, we had a capital program amendment that we needed to vote on, and there was a robust discussion about not having received the materials in advance. And we're back to that same playbook. And so much of this funding for this capital program was contingent on reform and contingent on a change in practice. And I am not saying that. I think we're just slapping this transformation label and reorganization label onto, unfortunately, a lot of the same old practices. And that gives me concern as we move forward. I think, again, the process for this and the development of this and the lack of communication with all of the funding partners and then the public at large is woefully inadequate. But with that, I am pleased to say that I support this plan.
Thank you. So before I call on Bob Lynn and then Neil Zuckerman, Jano, would you just talk, please, about the $1 billion disparity between the two commuter railroads and East Side Access, et cetera, please?
I think there's certainly been discussion. We've made the point, just for the board's consideration, that
is issues of.
Okay, let's do a little bit of fast forward. Oh, I love that name. Fast forward, just like Andy Byford's plan. Let's go to the presentation of the MTA IG. Caroline Pokorny that she did in front of the MTA board.
Concern to the ridership. And the third is using our strong compliance approach to help make the MTA as safe, strong, and smart for everybody. So on the transparency front, one of the first.
See, you heard that word again, transparency. And here, if you have any issues with the MTA, you could go to mtaig.state.ny.us or call them at 1-800-682-4448 or go to complaints@mtaig.org through their social media and in Instagram or Twitter at MTA OIG, in LinkedIn or Facebook under MTA Inspector General. And look at top. The word of the day, transparency. Something that the MTA, New Jersey Transit Corporation, in the Port Unauthorized of New York and New Jersey lack of. But let's continue listening to the IG's report.
First things I did was make my office's reports more readily available to everybody. My team of career auditors, investigators, and lawyers have always done incredible work, and we wanted to make sure that all of you and the MTA stakeholders had the benefit of seeing that work. So we are now posting our reports to our website and on our newly created social media platforms, which you can see up here on the slide. And as the board members know, for the first time, we are now emailing our reports in real time to the board members. And I very much appreciate the positive and constructive feedback that I've been getting from the board on our communications with you and on the reports themselves. And additionally, Commissioner Feinberg, this goes to something that you suggested the last time I spoke to the board. We also began posting our past historic reports and investigations to the website. These also have tremendous value. And so now all of our reports are up online going back to 2016. I'm very pleased to report that since I started, my office has received a record number of complaints, and this chart illustrates the complaint numbers by month. For me, more complaints is actually a very good and positive thing, which I'll explain.
Look at this. This is the amount of complaints that the IG office has received since September. Look at this. It started at 45, then went up to 57, 74, 95, then it went down to 82, 86, 81, then went up to 97, 99, 105, 175. That's in July of this year. Then it went down to 126 in August. And as of September, that's until yesterday, they received 96 complaints. That's a good thing for the IG.
And in terms of the numbers, year to date, my office has received 948 complaints. That is far more than we had in all of 2018 total. I believe it's something like a 38% or so jump over last year. And we saw a particularly big surge in July when we posted a number of our reports online and caught up with some of our historic reports. So by making our work more visible to everyone, to the riders, workers, management, the board, taxpayers, I think we're getting out the word that we're here to help, that we're here to make the system better. This leads to more complaints. They have trust in our office. That generates great ideas and leads for my team, and it's just a very healthy, self-reinforcing dynamic that we very much appreciate. So that's on the transparency front. In terms of issues that are of concern to the ridership, this will be and remain one of my primary focuses as your Inspector General. I met with the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee, thanks to Commissioner Albert and Lisa Daglian for that wonderful invitation. I appreciate it. I've also been meeting with good government groups, advocacy groups, and I know that ridership concerns are a priority, not just for me, but for the board also and for MTA leadership. So I've been out in the field inspecting areas of concern to riders. That's me actually doing inspections along with my team and workers in the field at the elevated tracks at Broadway Junction Station in Brooklyn. In the coming months, we'll have reports related to this issue, including falling debris. Escalators, as we heard from many of the public speakers, is a concern. We issued a report on escalator outages along the 2nd Avenue subway line, and the frequent and prolonged outages on this line was especially troubling given how new they are. And my team's analysis pointed to underlying issues that, when corrected, should lead to better performance of escalators, not just there, but we hope it will help inform the MTA's work system-wide and also be of use in other new projects, including East Side Access. On homelessness, another issue that was of concern, it's of concern to riders and also to workers as well, as we heard some of the public speakers express. I announced we would investigate issues relating to the nonprofit that performs work under contract with the MTA to assist the homeless. This was after the state controller issued some truly excellent reports on the issue. And my team and I made several troubling observations of our own at stations. I personally spent several hours inspecting Penn Station. I saw individuals who appeared to be homeless seeking food in garbage cans, lying on the ground, steps from the nonprofit that the MTA has contracted to help these individuals. It was very disturbing, and so I will update the board and the public with the results of that work when it's complete. And then finally, I've directed my office to use its very strong compliance lens and approach to help make the MTA better for everyone. This is an image of some of my office's reports that are now available on our website. We issued a report on fare evasion that I know was the subject of discussion by the board earlier this week. We recently pinpointed ways to strengthen the methodology behind Transit's fare evasion surveys for the subways and the buses. I know that data is extremely important to everybody. Getting the facts right so that you can make appropriate choices on policy and on management is absolutely vital. And Commissioner Schwartz, I wanted to address some recommendations and comments you had made about the fare evasion survey. I do want you to know that we met, my team met in person on multiple occasions with their counterparts at Transit. It wasn't just email, it wasn't just texting, it was a live human interaction on many occasions. We found their team to be very responsive, those conversations to be incredibly constructive. And I think this is just another way that my team can provide tremendous value to the MTA. And given the board's remarks earlier in the week, we will continue to work with Transit on the issue of fare evasion. On hospital access, we identified the need for Transit to establish formal agreements with hospitals to ensure that employees who are involved in an accident in an MTA vehicle are able to get federally mandated drug and alcohol testing. And I'm very pleased that Transit reported that they've already started reaching out to local hospitals to initiate formal agreements to make sure that that happens. And additionally, we concluded investigations against a handful of employees who engaged in misconduct, like stealing, and clearly these were a few bad actors among the over 70,000 hardworking, dedicated employees in the MTA workforce. And we will continue to investigate where warranted, allegations of misconduct and make appropriate recommendations of disciplinary measures. Finally, in terms of what's on the horizon, in the next couple of months, you will see reports from my office focusing on a range of issues, ranging from worker safety and falling debris to escalators, elevators, and overtime issues. We will also have a monitoring and a reporting role when it comes to the most significant issues that are facing the MTA, whether it's the transformation plan or whether it's overtime. And this is another way that we're able to add, I think, tremendous value to the MTA without further burdening taxpayers. I want to thank the board and the MTA presidents for your help in publicizing the importance of my office, for your cooperation in referring cases and ideas, for working together on reports. I very much appreciate that, and for your hard work implementing our recommendations. And my office is here to help all of the stakeholders. Our tip line is open. I have shamelessly plugged that now in several slides. And thank you so much for having me, Chairman.
Thank you.
You guys just heard the Inspector General giving a good report, and us as writers, we should do the same. But several things happened between Monday and let's say today. First, on Monday, we received an email from Lisa Daglian from the PCAC that forwarded us this article from Political, written informed by Dana Rothstein. Oh, this was this morning, actually. So the city is contributing $3 billion of the capital plan. And of course, as you guys know, on Monday we received this news that a court orders the NYPD to disclose fare beater figures. This wasn't mentioned during the MTA board this morning. David Jones could be happy about this because his own organization was involved in this. But what's going to happen now? We never know. Thank you, Andy Randomans, for joining me. We know that that NJT met this month already, and tomorrow will be the part unauthorized. This was the picture that progressive action had this morning in the boardroom. And look what they posted. Mr. Foy, we're welcoming ourselves to Port Washington, Cornell Beach Road. Very soon to rally for a good contract. We don't like the big nose, and you lied to us in the media. Our compensation and apology can fix this now. You have my info. Let's talk. But who was missing this month? Nothing less than John Samuelson. of TWU Local 100. And we have a statement of Andrew Mark Cuomo when the capital plan was approved. That the state is going to secure $25 billion plus the city plus an additional $3 billion plus the city is going to give another 3. And of course, we have this this letter about New York City leaders are reacting. We're not getting into that one. That's Ellen Shannon testifying in behalf of the Metro North Commuter Council regarding Suffrage Station. We have several tweets of Clayton Gus and Stephen Nielsen and Dan Rivoli. We have a tweet even from Veronica Vanderpool. The breaking news that 1010 was reported regarding the approval. There's Brian Burt with his sign. And Stephen Nielsen posted in the 5 hours in props to members of public holding his sign up the whole time. Mr. X, you got an indoor sunglasses competition. The debate was under 2 hours. Sarah Ritz replied to Dave. Despite lack of transparency. There goes the keyword, transparency. David Meyer. And of course, Susan Metzger. We have Larry Schwartz. Bus Bunching on West 32nd Street. Thank you to J. Martinez. Jose Martinez posted another board member, Sarah Feinberg, points to the unhappiness from many of the public speakers today. Says the anger isn't new, but it felt worse today than it has in the past. It feels that it's escalating. Of course, it's escalating. Larry Schwartz suggested changing the name of the Finance Committee to the Performance Committee. Where that's a dumb suggestion, Larry. Shaking my head. Sarah Ritz replies to Clayton Gus and to me, saying, not acceptable. You have money for thousands of new officers, and you have money for the organization plan, and you will find money to hire all the C-suite people it calls for, but you can find money to operate and move people. That's spiral. And this is Pat Foy's response to Warren Wilhelm Jr.'s letter. And we're going to read it in its entirety because it's pretty short. I received a letter this morning from the mayor outlining the city and the MTA and the state share priorities for New Yorkers need reliable public transit and share agreement on the fact the MTA needs significant sources to deliver on that. Suspension points. We look forward to continuing the conversation with the city in the weeks ahead. While a fully funded capital plan will invest a tremendous amount of resources into a transportation system, I want to make it clear that much of those funds we will receive it from the central business district tolling. That will be basically charging every single vehicle that goes south of 61st Street, except the FDR Drive and the West Side Highway, or other revenues or lockbox for capital projects. Without new funding resources to operate or cut costs, we will continue to face significant financial constraints and forecasted deficits in future years. We'll continue to focus on our operating budget deficits and find ways to reduce costs and balance the budget as statutorily required each year as we work towards the December financial plan. Uh, Bob Lynn says, more praise for Andy Byford, terrific manager and listener. And look at this. We retweeted this article from Progressive Railroad that the MBTA awards contract for 80 bi-level coaches. Look at this. The elevators up at Bowling Green across the street from MTH was out. For a long-time disability advocate Ida Prentice, it turned a 2-train trip to 7. Really good morning, she says. Of course, Rachel Faust from Reinvent Albany. As a matter of fact, it was a J train. We had even the mayor of Soften at the MTA board. Even we had once again the council member Yanis Rodriguez. Here's the letter that Warren Wilhelm Jr. sent to Pat Foy. But look what the mayor says in the second paragraph. I strongly support the vision set forth in the Fast Forward plan proposed by New York City Transit President Andy Byford. See, even Warren Wilhelm Jr. supports Fast Forward. Here are the conditions. 1. The $25 billion in capital funds will be generated from the Central Business District Tolling, or CBDT, and new tax revenue, as well as the MTA funding obligations to the 2024 capital plan will be exhausted before a city contribution is used. 2. An independent forensic audit is required by enacted state budget should be accelerated so its funds could inform the capital plan review process. And 3, city priorities for improving rider experience must be addressed. So those are the 3 conditions that Warren Wilhelm Jr. wants from the MTA. And of course, we had my fellow contributor on this channel and on Twitter, on Facebook, Matt Camper. He totally agreed 100% on my speech. But of course, this issue with the temporary platforms being in place without advance notice, that will be continuing. That will be to continue to be brought up if the railroad doesn't take action. We're gonna take this to the IG. And this is the picture that I took. I took a panoramic inside the boardroom. I was in the front line like I always do. Even David Meyer reported that since that the boardroom was so full, police tried to not let in board member David Mack, as you guys see here on this picture. But of course, there's more to become for, let's say, October and November respectively. Let's see if they announce officially the meeting dates for November. But before we do that, let's check we have expect longer wait times in Jamaica Center bound E train after we investigate and correct a door problem at 42nd Street Port Authority Bus Terminal. But in the next minutes or so, the E trains will be running on the F line in both directions between West 4th Street and 21st Street Queensbridge. Oh God, we have. Oh God, we have to. We have to play this. We have to. 10:35 p.m. train from Penn Station to Babylon. At 11:32, it's operating 13 minutes late through Kew Gardens due to a train ahead with equipment trouble. Too bad for those folks like Kevin Law who ride the Babylon branch. But there's nothing special about it. Sorry to say that, but it's the truth. And we just received we have delays on the one train because we have northbound one train, so delayed because of a train being removed from service, so our crews can assist a sick customer at 14th Street. What's new? Nothing new. Same old, same old. So the next meetings for October will be October 21st and 23rd, that we will have the joint Metro North and LIRR meeting at 8:30, Transit at 10, which is in Tunnels at 1, Finance at 1:30, and CPOC at 2:30. And the food board that will be on October 23rd at 9 a.m. So, that being said, we want to thank everybody that joined us tonight. Andy Q, Andy's Randomness, Vance Player 2299, Alex Choriello, Alex Rivera, and our contributor, Andy's Randomness. So, thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you guys around.